Good morning. It is good to be with you again. My name is Cari Jenkins, and I love when I get the opportunity to be with you all. Maggie asked if I would come. I'm going to figure out this mic situation. Maggie asked if I would come and be able to share as a part of your series around rhythms. And when I saw a word that she threw out there, mentorship, as part of a spiritual rhythm, I knew that was exactly what I wanted to talk about. So this is where we will be today. So before we dive in, there's this, I kind of have a little fan crush on Mr. Rogers. He was married and he's no longer with us, so take that as it is. But I love, there's this speech that he gives when he won, I believe he won an Emmy. And if you can find it on YouTube later, it's the sweetest thing. And he was standing in front to get his acceptance speech, and he had everyone in the audience close their eyes and for 10 seconds be totally silent and remember someone who influenced their life for good. And the camera kind of pans the audience, and people are crying, and it's just this holy moment. And so because Mr. Rogers is a mentor of mine, not because we met, but because I follow him, we're going to take a little moment to close our eyes and remember one person in your life who has in some way influenced you for good. You may have met them, you may have never met them, but they have influenced your life for good. Take a little moment to thank God for that person. Amen. Mentorship for me has been a lot more than finding someone who's really good at a particular skill that I would like to be able to learn. It has been finding a person who I want to follow. I want to follow in their way in some capacity. That idea has broadened my idea of what mentorship looks like. The dictionary says that mentorship is the influence, guidance, and direction given by a trusted counselor or guide. And the influence, guidance, and direction given by a trusted counselor or guide. When asked to speak somewhere, the very first thing that I do is I look for how did Jesus do this? Like, where did he mentor people? And he did not use the word mentorship anywhere in Scripture, but he invited people to follow him. If you go through the book of Mark and you do this goofy little study, which I really love to do and lead, is you just go through and you look for all the invitations of Jesus and all of his commands. And the most common commands that Jesus gives, there are top 5. They are come, follow, watch, listen, and the last one is go. We often only look at go as a people, but there are 4 more common than that, and they are come, follow, watch, and listen. Jesus invited people constantly to come and follow him, come and watch, come and listen, be in relationship with me, and as we are going, pay attention and follow after me. And when you do that, go and do likewise. But that going does not actually truncate the coming, the following, the watching, and the listening. Mentorship is though the word is not used in Scripture, it is modeled in so many ways. Jesus gave us a very particular model of having people come and do life with him, watch him, listen to him, and then live and be sent out in his way. In fact, Jesus says, I am the way. So if we really want to know the way, how do we do life? How do we be human? Jesus is our first mentor. He gets to show us what that is like. How do we be human? I want to look at Jesus and I want to find out. When it comes to mentorship as a rhythm and as a practice, I will tell you that I have had a pursuit of mentors since I was a very tiny person. Part of that is my father taught at a little Bible college in Omaha, Nebraska, and we lived right across the street from the campus, and so college kids were always at my house. So from the time I was born until 6th grade, I would sit on my front porch and we would know all the names of the college kids as they walked by. They all were people who would be really familiar with our home. They'd come in and out. And in my really little conservative church when I was little that sometimes I have pain about, did this one thing remarkably well. And they partnered 6th graders with men and women who were over 70 to be our prayer partners. And Betty Pugh was my prayer partner. And I would get together, Betty would take me out to this little restaurant called Coco's, and we would get a fried ice cream sundae, and we would talk about things that we were praying about. And I was in the 6th grade, and I would meet with sweet little Betty Pugh, who was, I think, probably 75, and we met once a month for an entire year. And I will tell you, as a 6th grader, it was awkward at first. And then it became this treasure that I can close my eyes and remember her outfits. She gave me this little ceramic bell that says Merry Christmas on it. It has holly and ivy on it. And I put that thing out every year at Christmas. And I treasure it because I'm like, a 75-year-old woman chose to spend an entire year with me when I was in the 6th grade. She was the first person who chose to invest in me as a mentor that I recognized that she was giving up something to spend time with me. I don't remember much of our conversations. I don't remember much of what information I got from her, but my life was formed by her. And I really hope that when I am 75 or 80, that I'm willing to hang out with a 6th grader, and maybe I'll give them a little ceramic bell maybe I'll pass on Betty's bell to some tiny human in my life. That would just be great. Now I have a new life goal. So she was my first mentor that I can say she chose me. But the posture was, this was an arrangement that was done for me. My church made it happen. I was partnered with someone. We both had an agreement, and we went into relationship with each other. As I grew, mentorship in the church actually seemed pretty easy. I had a youth pastor. I had small group leaders. I had people that would choose to invest. And then if I saw someone that I liked something about them, I would pursue a relationship with me. And this is where I understand that my personality and who I am affects my experience with mentorship. So I will talk from my perspective because that's the one that I have, but I will also give the caveat that I understand not everyone is as bold relationally as I can be. So hopefully there will be a little something for all of us in this. So for me, mentorship has become and has stayed this rhythm, both in my learning how to be human, which is a very spiritual act. We were designed and created to be human, and it was so very good. And we need people to help us know how to be human. We need people to help us know how to be human so badly that Jesus came himself to be like, okay, they haven't figured it out. We got to send me so that I can show you how to do this. And so he's a really great place to start. So again, mentorship is the influence, guidance, direction given by a trusted counselor or guide. Now, I want you to think about people, when we say like, oh, I follow so-and-so, what do you automatically think of these days? Social media. So we think about like these, like, oh, do you follow blah, blah? I like never follow anyone unless it's a dog or a really cute animal of some kind in my friends. So, and I'll occasionally go like, oh, I should follow this person. They say interesting things. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm tired of all the interesting things. I'm going to follow more puppies. So I am being influenced in my following of cute animals. But what we intake, I think a lot of times we take in all of this and we think nothing about the fact that we have said, I am following this person. I'm following them to learn from them in some capacity. So if I think about what I am giving my attention to, what I give my attention to, I am being formed by. What I give my attention to, who I'm giving my attention to, the voices I'm giving attention to, I am being formed by. That has become really important in my hunt for mentorship in my lifetime. In high school, I had Liz Castile, Laura, Lisa, Micah, Patty, and Mrs. Fossum. So I had a teacher, a youth pastor, two people who chose to invest their lives in high school kids. And I remember I would watch them, and I watched how they live. I watched how they talked to people. I watched how people responded to them. And without knowing that it's what I was doing, I was kind of picking and choosing, I want to be formed by this. I want this character quality. Oh, that part, see, I don't know what to do with that part. I have a question now. In college, it was a man named RJ, another man named Ken West, and a woman named Kara Powell. I watched how they lived. Ken was one of these men that I watched how he lived. I watched how he was a youth pastor in the area. I paid attention to how he postured himself to students, and I said, I want to be like that. And then I would find every opportunity I could to be around him. When Ken passed away of cancer at an altogether too early age, his one request is that everyone would wear a Hawaiian shirt to his funeral because he was in paradise. And that was his posture all of the time. He delighted in Jesus. And I wanted that. I wanted to be able to face something terrifying and go, I'm going to do it with the Hawaiian shirt on. I want to observe people who posture themselves in a way that I want to emulate. So the first thing I do when I look for a mentor is I look at character. Who possesses a character quality that I desire to grow? A woman named Terry Martin, I remember the first time I met her, I was the youth pastor at the church, and I watched her and I was like, that woman she is strong and she's gentle. And I had never met a woman who embodied gentleness in the way that she did. It wasn't like this mask of like meek littleness. It was just this bold gentility that was fierce and yet it felt like, oh gosh, my mind. It felt like a gorilla who was holding a little baby chick. Like this, like she had this ability that she could kill you, but she was never going to. She was going to be gentle with you. And I was like, oh, I want to be around that. Now, that year, guys, sorry about my brain. Actually, I like it. It's fun. That year, Terry's husband got pancreatic cancer and he passed away. And I started to hear words about her husband around town. Now, I was brand new. I had just moved to California. I was just new at this church, and there is this buzz around the church about this man who, when people talked about him, their face would change, and every person, when they talked about him, they embodied, they looked like someone who knew they were deeply loved. So I started taking notes on what people would say to me about him. And before I met her, I would send her cards with, I heard this about your husband today. I would want to know if I were you. And I started to send her cards. So eventually, when her large season of initial grief was over, she reached out and wanted to get together with me. And that is how she became my mentor. But she first mentored me without even knowing it. I observed the way that she handled her grief. I observed the way people talked about her. I observed her as she entered a room and the humility and kindness and strength that she embodied. And I wanted to know where that came from and how I could be formed to become more like that. When I turned 40, guys, if you haven't done the midlife thing, it's significant and your life falls apart and nothing works the way you think it's gonna work. And that's encouraging. Welcome. And I was like, I have to find someone who's 80 years old, who is not discounting their grief and who is not embittered. And so I went on a hunt for someone who is 80 years old, who is not embittered, and who had not discounted their painful life, because we all have a painful life in some capacity. And I could not find someone. So I started calling friends who are 80 in other parts of the country and saying, do you know anyone in Denver who is over 80 who can help me know how to walk through this season, because I need somebody. And eventually, a friend of mine in Portland and a friend of mine in California told me the same name of a man here in Colorado and connected me with him. And I started meeting with Bob every week, and I met with him for every week for 3 years. And he mentored me through the transition of, my life feels like it's falling apart. Everything feels miserable. Nothing is working the way. And the first time I went and met with him, I trusted him already, because trusted people had given me his name. So for Bob, I actually had to hunt him down because I could not find somebody. I know that I just led a retreat last week, and the question was asked, how many of you have a mentor? Do you know someone who's at least 10 to 20 years older than you? And no one at the table did. And they said, I don't know where they are. When I talk to my friends who are older, they say, well, we don't feel qualified to invest in people who are younger. And this is why I trick every mentor into tricking me. Tricking me? Every mentor into mentoring me. I have only asked one person to mentor me in my life, and that person said no. I've asked probably about 50 people to go to coffee, and every single one of them said yes. When you give someone a title of mentor, all of a sudden, I'm telling you, it gets a little wonky. So I would just encourage you to trick as many people as you want. So to find someone that you go, oh, I want to learn from them, and I have a question that they might be able to help me with. Do you want to go to coffee with me? It feels less scary. And a conversation and a coffee is easy. And then at the end, you might say, could we do this again? This is really great. And I have not had anyone say no. So Terry is someone I observed and I moved towards. Bob, I hunted down. There's a woman named Janet who I met at an event in Washington, D.C., and I was like, she possesses something that I want. And we had one conversation, and I tried to get as much time with her as possible so that I could learn from her. And at the end of this workshop that we were in, we got in a conversation, and she invited me to come visit her in Portland, where she lived. And I said yes. I took her at her word that when she invited me, that she actually meant it. And so 3 months later, I showed up and spent the weekend with Janet and her husband. And then Janet and I ended up doing a class together. So I spent 2 weeks with she and her husband. And then over the years, we've spent more and more time together. And we can go years without talking or seeing each other. And as I was preparing for this, I called her, and it was like, oh, we haven't talked in 4 years, and it's so good to be back together. So if there's someone who initiates with you in any way, and they ask you, you should come visit. Or I'd love to go to coffee sometime. Don't sit on it. Like, do it. And I was guys, I lived in San Diego at the time, and I made $12,000 a year, and so I was very poor. And I made space to go because it was a value for me. Mentorship has formed me over and over and over again. So right now we're just going to pause, and I want you to close your eyes and think about, is there someone in your life that you have observed that you want to learn from? And it could be anything. It could be a skill set. It could be a character quality. It could be the way they take care of their yard, how they do their finances, anything. Is there a person you want to learn from? Now, think about how you might invite that person into a conversation about the thing that you want to learn from them. They could be older or younger, but how might you invite them into a conversation about the thing you want to learn from them? If you need to make a note, you can feel free to do so. So mentorship. Mentorship for me begins with character. I want to see character in a person, and I want to then go, how do I want to emulate that? Then I decided 2.5 years ago that I wanted to build an app. And I know nothing about phones. I have a really hard time turning them on because they don't have a button anymore that is obvious. When I got my new iPhone and there wasn't the button, I mean, literally, I stared at it for a very long time because I was like, I don't know how to do this. So I had to find someone who was 20 years younger than me to mentor me in phone technology. And I had thought it was a good idea to start an app. So I immediately I want to develop this thing. The idea was vetted by a bunch of people. Everyone was saying, this is really great, it's really needed. And I'm like, okay, then I need to find people in this world who can mentor me. So I had a problem, and I needed some people to help me out with it. And I went hunting for people who could help me with this who would mentor me in this way. Eventually, they mentored me so well that I decided not to start an app. Which is probably where I should have started in the first place, but I had a lot of learning to do. The next is there's situational learning that we need to do. So sometimes we hit a situation in our life where we're like, I need to know that someone's been here before. How do I do this? So there's like a skill set or a gift that we might want to learn and how to operate in. So we look for that kind of mentor. We might be in a situation, maybe you're about to have your first baby, maybe you're dating someone for the first time in a long time, maybe you are having a particular crisis within your family, maybe there's something in work, there's a dynamic you're wanting to work out, and you know someone who might have experience in that. So you seek out a mentor for that season. So that person might come in the form of like 5 coffees. It might come in the form of different conversations. And I am turning 49 this year, and I'm like, I have a year until I'm 50. So what I decided I want to do for my birthday is I wanted to get 10 women who are over 50 and 10 women who are around my age together for a weekend so that we could have conversations about turning 50. So there are people that are flying into Colorado. We're going to the mountains, and we are having I'm turning 50 in a year retreat together. And because I'm like, I need to know how to do this. And I don't have someone who's going to just like teach me unless I ask them. So I'm pretty bold in my asking. This would be another example of saying, hey, would you get on an airplane and fly to spend a weekend with me and talk about the fact that you're 70? And they all say, yes, I would love to. I wish I had that. And so, and then I have had a couple of people say, so you're saying I'm old? I go, yep, and I want to learn how to do it well like you. So that is situational. Like, I want to know how to enter into this part of life well. And so who are going to be my guides? I want to look for them. Then there are people that are just built in as guides in my life. People that I go, okay, so I have these people that I'm learning a skill set from. This might be a situational kind of like guidance or mentorship. And then I created, because I did life alone and worked alone, I created a personal board. So I've had a personal board for 20 years of 10 people, 5 couples who we would get together 4 times a year. And when I would have a problem, or I would some are really good at finances, some are really good at, in the professional world I'm in, some are just quality people who I like to be around. And we would sit and I would talk, they would ask me questions, I would listen, and then they'd just say, we're available to you. That's been crucial in my life, to have a group of people. Now all those people live here in Denver. They live kind of scattered all over. I've had they aren't on it. I ask them like, hey, would you commit to doing 1 year with me? And this I actually ask in a formal way. And that has been transformative for me, to have people that I say, I'm gonna ask you, I respect the way you live your life, or I respect this thing in you. Would you come and be a sounding board for me for living? So mentorship, gift or skill set, a situational kind of mentorship, a built-in kind of mentorship. And then I look also for, I might be surprised by a person and I'm like, oh, I just like them. And I don't know what it is that I like about them, but I want to be around them. And so sometimes that is the way that a mentorship has happened. I've been very intentional about finding people who have gone before me to walk and invest in my life. Some of my best mentors have been authors. They've not been people I've ever met. They have been, Frederick Buechner has been a mentor. Wendell Berry has been a mentor. Fred Rogers has been a mentor. There have been, there's Teresa of Avila, St. Teresa of Lisieux. There are these people that I go, oh, I want to read and learn from them, because I want to be around whatever I can of them. Eugene Peterson, finding people who I want, who are trusted guides. And I've had seasons where I could not find one in my city. So I had to trust the guides of a book, or of a long distance friend, or of someone that I may never meet. Those people have also become very important in my life. And I wish I could tell them. But most of the people who mentor me through books are dead. So we'll meet them one day. Maggie. I'm in a space this morning, y'all. So when I look at these rhythms of mentorship, I understand that I go, oh, I have a problem. I don't want to solve it alone. That has been one of the key things for me in finding a mentor. I have something I'm going through. I don't want to do it alone. Who can help me do this well? And sometimes it's very specific. I want them to be of this age demographic, and I want them to look like this, and I want them to have had the pain of their life mold them in a positive way instead of a negative way. And then I start hunting. So a lot of times when we think about mentors, we think of this relationship that looks pretty, it can look kind of stoic. We think, oh, I'm going to meet with them and they're going to give me all of their life wisdom and I'm going to take notes, and that is how this mentorship works. And some of my best mentors have been people who invited me to run errands with them, who invited me to come and spend the weekend at their home, to people that I would say, hey, can I just come to your office for a half hour and get time around, or how do you do that? I want to know how you talk about God in a way that I'm curious about. Can I learn how you got there? I've had people ask me, Cari, you do this thing with Jesus that I don't understand. Can we have a conversation about how you've gotten to know Jesus as not just a theological concept, but as a person? Would you teach me? And it is so honoring to have somebody notice something in you that they want to learn from. So if you get nervous about asking, just know that the ask in and of itself is honoring. The ask in and of itself is honoring. Not everyone has the availability to do so, but asking becomes a big part. I would say the questions for me that have pushed me to find a mentor have been like, what are the questions that I'm asking in life? What are the character qualities that I want to develop? What is the situation that I'm in that I am unfamiliar to? What is the stage of life that I'm in that I want to be able to navigate well? What is the desire that I hold that I want to know someone who has held that same desire? And who are the trusted advisors in the world around me that I could move towards with those questions? When we know what we're looking for, it's a lot easier to find a mentor. When we're looking for an ambiguous person who will play a role, that can be pretty tricky. But if we go, I want to grow in this. If I had any desire to grow in gardening, I would have 3 people that I would go to immediately to say, can I learn from you? And more than likely, sans a miracle, that will not happen. But I have this list of, these people are really skilled at this thing that I want. And then to begin looking and asking. Let your question be something that not only do you take to maybe the Gospels and look at what does Jesus maybe have to say to you about that as a primary mentor in your life. How did Jesus live that out? How did Jesus embody this thing that I am wanting to embody? But who is someone around me that might be able to walk with me in that way? A mentor can be for a season or for a long period of time. And you don't always have to have someone to mentor you. You might just ask them one question. So a mentorship doesn't have to be this big, long, drawn-out thing. It could be a moment where the right question was asked. And it's okay to ask boldly. And it's okay to not ask. I really do feel like I've tricked most people into being my mentor. And because I have not said, hey, will you mentor me in this? One time there was a woman I had been meeting with for 2 years, and I told someone that she was my mentor, and she goes, oh, I'm not your mentor. And she backed off, and I was like, if I had asked her to mentor me, she would have said no. But because I asked to get to know her, I wanted a relationship with her, she was a lot quicker to say yes. And so it's been this deeply significant part of my life, and it has changed me, and it has changed the way that I navigate things, that I now have the assumption of I want to find someone who's done it before. And it has always started with a question. I've been willing to look and to hunt for someone who could help me with that question, to ask for time, ask for permission, to honor that person, to share my life with that person, to speak what I've learned from them back to them, that their investment in me is making a difference, and to say thank you to them. And there are a couple qualities I look for in every mentor. One is, are they people who are curious? People who want to lean in, to learn and to know more than they're people who have all of the knowledge and just want to pass on facts to me. I want to learn from someone who's going to help me ask better questions, more than I want to be mentored by someone who gives me all of the answers. So for you to find out what is the thing that you really value that you want to find in a person who might be able to walk alongside of you. And then when they invite you to anything, say yes. I thought maybe this morning it would be helpful if we had a little bit of time to ask questions or share stories about how many of you would say that you've had a mentor in your life in some capacity? How many of you really would love a mentor right now and do not have one? How are there things that as you're holding that desire that you would feel comfortable to say, this is what I really want a mentor for, and this is where I get hung up in asking for one or finding one? Does that make sense? What is the hang up around being able to find someone? Is there a fear? Is it situational? What do you need to move forward? And this is not rhetorical. We're going to have a little conversation. And then we're going to wrap it up. So maybe, sorry, I've been watching for my time this morning and I have not noticed, but I just got this motion, so now I'm like, I got to finish. We're not going to have a conversation at all. I'm the worst. If you have questions that you want to talk to me about, I'll be down here later and you can come and talk to me. Timeliness, you should never have me mentor you in that. That is not a good idea. So I will tell you this. I deeply care about this because as a human being, we need other people. We were made, like even in the Trinity, there's this idea of them investing. They're like invested in each other. And the Father pours into the Son, and the Son pours out the Spirit, and they're in constant relationship. And we were made in the image of a singular plural. We were made in the image of a triune God. So the expectation is that we also need to have our lives being investing in somewhere and someone investing in us. And so how do we do that in our created way? And with that, I'm going to pray and end awkwardly. So Jesus, we are really thankful for you and thankful for the fact that you are our first human mentor, that you showed us how to live, that you invite us to come and to follow and to watch and to listen, that you invite us into relationship where you willingly ask people to come and learn from the way that you do things. And you gave us a picture of how we might learn from others. Lord, I pray for those of us who have a desire for a mentor and do not have one, that you would bring the right question and the right person. I pray, Lord Jesus, that where there is lack, that you would bring abundance. Where there is longing for investment, that investment would be found. And Lord, that you would be our teacher along the way. Thank you for this time, for this space, for these people. And thank you for the gift of being together as we continue to be mentored by you in this time and in this space. Amen.